More moves are coming as a report reveals a huge New York Rangers trade update. After just trading for JT Miller, Chris Drury has officially spoken out on the future of this team, and some of his comments are pretty shocking. We're going to break it all down in this episode of Rangers Digest. But before we do that, a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. About 74% of you who watch these videos on the regular are not subscribed to the channel. So if you want to stay up to date with everything that's going on with the New York Rangers, from trade updates heading into the trade deadline to post-game reactions and all the stuff in between, it's free. Be sure to hit that subscribe button. Now, a crazy report just dropped, multiple reports I should say, because Chris Drury has officially spoken out on the JT Miller trade. And I should say, full disclosure, I am pre-recording this before the game against the Boston Bruins because this news just dropped, but I will be releasing this video right after the game, and we'll have some post-game reaction if JT Miller does anything crazy like score in his New York Rangers debut. But I thought this was crazy and a really good sign for the future. Now, personally, I think that the JT Miller trade was a great trade, and shout out to this Twitter user for obviously, or whoever Johnny Lazarus is texting, for being the fastest person in the world to get a JT Miller jersey, a new JT Miller jersey, because he is officially wearing the number 8 this time around with the New York Rangers. So I just wanted to shout that out because I thought that was pretty funny. But to move along, shout out to Colin Stevenson, who's been covering the Rangers all season long. Great follow on Twitter. And he sums up basically everything that happened this morning, and then we're going to get into it and dissect it individually. So GM Chris Drury on the JT Miller trade. He helps not just now, but moving forward. He sees him as a big part of this future, of the future core of the New York Rangers. And a lot of people are going to roll their eyes at that and be like, this guy's already going to be 32. How is he going to be part of the future? We'll get to that in a second. It was tough giving up Chytil and Mancini, but worth it to get Miller. I think most Rangers fans would share that sentiment, and as time passes, we'll see that that is probably true. He did talk to Miller's pal, Vincent Trocheck, and Vincent Trocheck is a childhood friend of JT Miller. Beforehand, to kind of get some background on that, we'll get to that later in this video as well. And the increase in the cap played no part in the deal. That's one thing I want to bring up too. I don't think a lot of people realize the cap is going up almost $7 million this offseason, which basically almost pays for JT Miller's contract in itself. The Rangers still have more cap space anyway, and it's going up almost $9 million every season after that. I am not worried. I'm, again, just speaking personally, I am not worried about this contract whatsoever, especially because of what he brings to the table, the fact that he's going to be playing with a childhood friend, and the fact that he wanted to come to New York if he was going to get traded. So good vibes there, I think. And President and GM Chris Drury officially spoke out on the JT Miller trade, and he said, certainly an exciting day, an exciting night last night to acquire JT Miller. Certainly one of the premier impact forwards in the NHL. Brings a unique combination of skills, size, and physicality to our team. That he does. That's the thing I'm most excited for, to see JT Miller as a New York Ranger. The physicality, the speed, the size that he brings. He's going to be an X factor now at center, and I think that, it makes things interesting this offseason. Will Mika Zibanejad make it to next season as a New York Ranger? Let me know in the comments if you made it this far in the video, if you think Zibanejad's going to be a Ranger next year. This makes things very interesting. Not just helps us this year in the short term, but will be a key part of our core moving forward. And he went on to say, we've certainly had, to preference it, GM Chris Drury said, if they feel they can go for it after the JT Miller deal. We've certainly had a better January. Didn't end the way we wanted it to with losses to Colorado and Carolina. But as I said in the past, my job on the management side of the organization is to try and push forward as best as we can and always find different ways to try and be a better team. We will continue to do that. So lots of tidbits here today. Drury also mentioned that he spoke to Vincent Trocheck, who was childhood friends with JT Miller ahead of the trade. And, he went on to say, I'm not going to get into private conversations, but Troke is one of the places that we did some homework. And Chris Drury also said that he absolutely did do his due diligence, because there was a lot flying around on that about the JT Miller and Elias Pettersson situation before making the trade. We have certainly done a lot of homework on that situation and on JT. Wouldn't have done the deal if I didn't feel comfortable. So clearly, I'm not saying that JT Miller wasn't the problem in Vancouver, but it was a bad mix in Vancouver. And I think that JT Miller is excited to be a New York Ranger, and I think he's going to inject some life into this team. And I think that he also demands a level of excellence, I'll call it, from everyone, right? That we saw with the Vancouver Canucks. And I think that's going to be a good thing for the Rangers. I honestly do think they need more of that in the dressing room. And, you know, again, this was the full quote, so you can pause and read this if you want on the due diligence, but, you know, just to go into it a little bit, we do have a history with him, obviously having drafted him and him being a Ranger before, so we felt comfortable doing the deal. Obviously, I'm not in the dressing room or part of their organization in terms of the Canucks, but wouldn't have done this deal if I didn't feel comfortable as to what he was going to bring us on and off the ice. So again, some interesting stuff there from Chris Drury. We got some more quotes. And this is the most interesting part of it for me in terms of everything that's happened over the last 24 hours. And, you know, Chris Drury was asked if he wants to make more moves after the JT Miller acquisition. And he went on to say, we have 5 games left before the break. So excited to see JT getting here and getting in our lineup today. He is playing today against the Boston Bruins. Like I said at the start of the video, I am pre-recording this because this news just dropped, but I will drop this immediately after the video, or sorry, immediately after the game today against the Boston Bruins. It might have some post-game reactions as well, depending on what happens in the game. Should be a good one. And, you know, he's getting here and getting in the lineup today to see what we can do before the Four Nations break. Again, I'm always open to thoughts and suggestions and exploring ways on how we can be better, and we'll continue to do so up until the break and as we head into the deadline. So to me, sounds like Chris Drury is not done yet. He wants to make the playoffs, and whether fans, you know, agree with it or not, a lot of fans thought, you know, with everything that's happened so far this year, maybe just miss the playoffs, get a high draft pick. You don't have that draft pick anymore. Let's make the playoffs, right? The draft pick is gone. There is no reason to not make the playoffs anymore. Foot on the gas, make the playoffs, make some noise in the playoffs. I think you can with JT Miller. The only people you're missing from last year is Capo Caco, who really wasn't making that much of an impact anyway. I would argue is because of where he was playing, but anyway, he's gone now. You don't have Jacob Trouba. You found a replacement for that role in Will Borgen, and you don't have Barclay Goodrow, which, you know what? Sam Carrick has emerged as not Barclay Goodrow, but he is playing some pretty good hockey. So, I mean, like, this team is not that much different. You can make some noise in the playoffs if you get it together here, and I think JT Miller brings this team, especially at the center position, to a whole new level. So it does not sound like Chris Drury is done whatsoever. And he also said he did some homework, like I mentioned before, on the situation. He wouldn't have done it. And he calls JT Miller a key part of our core moving forward, which I think is very interesting. He also thanked Filipino and Victor Mancini and wished them the best moving forward, which I thought was a very classy gesture from the GM. But again, I think that this was a great move. I think that, you know, your first round pick is gone now. There's no reason not to make the playoffs. Foot on the gas, try to make the playoffs, make some noise with JT Miller. Again, I think that the Rangers have a great opportunity here, and it sounds like Chris Drury is not done. There could be some more moves coming. He said that, you know, he's open to upgrading anywhere, and we'll see what happens with a few other of the pieces on this team. But again, I don't think they gave up that much for JT Miller. I think it's a great trade. Let me know what you think in the comments and what you think about the Rangers possibly making more moves. There's a lot of fallout following this trade, and it should be an exciting next little while heading into the Four Nations Cup break. But let me know what you think in the comments, and if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with everything New York Rangers.